All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to our meeting. If you can please rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Councilmember Wood. Here. Councilmember Conrad.
Here.
Councilmember Rich.
Here.
Mayor Theros.
Here.
Councilmember Donovan.
Here.
Councilmember Zorba.
By God's grace.
Here. No coronary member. Thank you. Item 3, reading the consideration of our minutes from the meeting on August 8th. Are there any changes or questions regarding the minutes? Having none, they will be approved as submitted. Item 4 has been withdrawn by the applicant to an unspecified date and will not be heard today. Number 5, consideration of request from 18666 Mac Avenue, Irish Coffee, to approve proposed improvements to the existing outdoor dining area on the property. Mr. Kennedy, and who else? Come on up and tell us what you got.
Hello, my name is Matt Badrak, Badrak Design Group. I was 336 Wood Road. So the idea here is that we want to take the temporary outdoor seating area that Mac already has in place and make it a permanent setup. So we've got a structure with a roof on it, so that the patrons can be outside while training, and gives a better liquor control situation with our perimeter walls, some plantings, some railings. So that's sort of our goal here is to make it a permanent setup. So here before you.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about the parking exception you're requesting, materials to be used, hours of operation, because at least in the mechanical report, there's some questions about that, et cetera. Give me a little more meat on the bones here on what you're doing.
So the patio is intended to close at midnight. So that was, we're not extending past midnight. So I think that's, it works with the sound ordinance, so nothing happens after 12 out there. Materials right now are just painted either an MBO, so waterproof exterior material for columns, shingle roof. Inside we'll probably have some sort of beadboard ceiling. We'll have lighting inside there. The perimeter has planters that will add some green to that parking lot, which has no green right now, other than the building. There's a gate at the end as a second egress out of there. Right now it's set up to be a sort of a movable piece so that when there's events going out there, we don't have these barriers up there, which I believe go through special process for special events and using the parking lot and that kind of stuff. There is a bar out there, just like there's a bar now, same amount of seats, so it's essentially the same. It is the same size.
It's a little better on the eyes.
Yeah.
What about the parking?
Parking, there's 7 on site. There's street parking in front of up to 18 18 on-street parking spaces, which brings us to 25. I think the guideline was 23 parking spaces, so we should be within that guideline there. And that doesn't count any on-street parking across the street on in the Detroit side along Mac. So that's strictly just essentially from the post office up to the corner. There's also, we don't have any parking agreement in place right now, but obviously on the other side of Mr. C's, there's a lot that it has 18 spaces based on their parking counts just from the square footage calculation. I think they require 14 to 16 spaces, so there's a surplus in there.
As well as a driveway, they allow them to share with us.
So there's a driveway in that space. It's a one-way drive, so it does allow for a couple of spaces there.
Have you talked to Kevin and his sister? What have they said about, you guys losing 3 spots at the top there?
Have we talked about losing 3 spots?
So you guys have been using this temporarily, now it's going to be permanent.
No, that's our lot.
I got it, but if you talk to Mr. Seeds about overflow, and because now you're.
Yeah,
That's what you're
saying.
saying. Was Kevin signed off on, the sister signed off on potentially having people use their spots?
Right, we haven't made that approach yet, but.
I mean, I know, we've been operating up there for 2 years.
Right, but having access to the public parking, which is on-street parking, sort of fits that.
So you didn't talk to him about this project specifically, you're relying on.
He knows that we're building a permanent structure.
Anything else? Any questions from council?
So Matt, is there it sounds like there's plenty of parking spaces. Is there a need for an exemption here?
Well-
Exception, I guess I'm not understanding why we need to.
With the on-street parking, the municipally owned parking and the parking they have, there's no need for them to have an official agreement with Mr. C's. I think what they're saying is that it's there and, as long as Kevin would be okay with it, it would potentially allow for overflow. But I think the exception would be to use the municipal parking that's provided. There's enough municipal parking to meet the parking requirements.
So we still need, as part of a motion tonight, an exception.
Yes.
Okay, and then, Louis, can I ask?
It's multiple choice night.
Okay, is there, when I drove by the site, I couldn't tell, is there a dumpster, or how are we gonna ensure cleanliness?
Yeah, dumpster enclosure accessible off the back of the lot, the public alley that goes through there. Yeah,
And that's
Screen.
it's always been there, and that's been kind of the status quo, and that's not gonna change because you're not changing the dimensions or anything like that.
Okay.
In your application, you mentioned lighting, you're proposing, sodium lighting. Are you okay with LED lights, which, the city has?
Yes, for the new space there, absolutely. There's, the site plan that we submitted shows where all the building lights are. There's a ton of building lighting there. On poles along Mr. C's drive, on this building, in 2 spots. And in the alley side, so there's a lot of lighting there, but certainly, absolutely, LED lighting.
Yeah, I mean,
In the
because
space.
I don't know where it is in here, frankly, I'm not gonna dig it up, but I think you did mention sodium lights, and so if we could just make a formal switch on that. And then, Louis, I'd like to ask John Hutchins a question as to public safety and access. Any problems with the plan as you see it in terms of access for emergency vehicles?
No, the way it's been presented to us, it looks pretty good.
All right, no more questions, Louis?
Yeah, we had some questions come into us from Mr. Gunderson at 480 Bellinger, who is a frequent guest here. And I just wanted to, he asked for us to delay this because he's not able to attend and felt that he was not given enough notice. He only got it on the 11th. I understand the mail can be sometimes a problem, so I don't think it makes sense to necessarily delay it, but I do have a couple of questions based on his email to us. What are the hours of operation? Does it ever get beyond 2 a.m.?
No,
No. And what are your typical hours of operation?
5 p.m. to 11 p.m. and then basically the grill closes at 11 Fridays and closes at midnight.
You're never really operating beyond 12 a.m.
Not generally.
And then he had a concern about some existing porta potties that are there for special events. Is there a porta potty there right now, or?
No.
Okay, and wouldn't have any impact on whether or not those are being used? I mean, you are getting less, you are having 3 less spaces now than you have even with the tent, is that correct?
Right, it's currently the same footprint that the tent was.
Would this eliminate the need for those? Because I can understand he's right behind there, and that can be.
We had a porta potty for 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, and it was just for 2 events.
Yeah. Okay.
We don't generally have them out there.
Yeah.
For normal.
And I'll say, I know that we talked about the tent structure in the past, and there was serious. You guys were obviously very much in compliance with all the fire safety rules, but there's always concern when you have a tent-like structure and external heating the kind of way they were. So I think in some ways, for me, not only is this, I think, a better visibly, I think it's also seems a little bit safer than what we had before if you're doing something more permanent. These are all the questions that I have.
That's Joseph.
I do not. How many spaces do you have currently inside the restaurant for people?
Currently 49.
49. And then what will this increase your capacity to? What's this going to?
We have 24 seats out there.
There's 16 at the tables and then,
You basically increasing it by 50%. Right?
Yeah.
And right now you have one male bathroom and one female bathroom, is that what you have? Yeah. Me, I can see, I need porta potties. I'm really concerned about, how guys are. You gotta go, you gotta go.
Based on the Michigan Plumbing Code, restaurants like
Yeah.
this are one fixture for 75 people, so we can have 150, and so we need compliant.
Well, I just, you just gotta know if we start getting complaints about what's going on in the alleys, then we're gonna have.
and if we had an event that we were expecting at full capacity, I mean, we'd have no problem providing a porta potty for the day or for the event itself. And then obviously be removed.
Right.
That's mainly, I think that the use for this would be in the summertime when the indoor is not generally that busy.
There's no heat in here.
Right.
Okay.
No.
And that's all open, that area is all open. So it's basically a patio.
And since we don't do much business in the summertime inside, so this would kind of be an idea of, while we're not using the inside, we have an option to use the outside, and then we have the bathrooms inside as well.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Let me follow up on a couple questions that from Mr. Gunderson's, just as he's not here. Hutch, he says, there have been previous break-ins on the temporary detention bar area. Have there been break-ins into the bar in Tempe?
Yes, one that I'm aware of, yes.
Any others, Mike, just one time?
There was one.
So what are you doing with alcohol storage? So I see your U-shaped bar there. Are you taking it inside?
Everything will be boxed up and put inside either the locked shed or in the kitchen.
He's looking for alcohol that night.
Was that person?
Yeah.
Mr. Gunderson also talks about enforcing noise and playing music. So you stop serving at 11 or 12. I mean, do stragglers sit around, finish their beers till 1, 12:30, 12:30?
Sure, I mean, I'd be happy to, the girl closes at 11, shut it down at 11 or 12. And then everybody goes inside, I mean, the outdoor is not open at whatever point in time.
Would you be okay with the motion, including that at least while school's out, you can maintain the 12 p.m. close time and get everybody shoot out, but at least when the school year starts, if they're still open, do 10 or 11 o'clock during the week and then later hours on the weekend because of the residents that are right there.
Sure, I can move to 11.
And then music off, everything at 11, et cetera. Correct, yes, that'd be great. I'd probably ask you that would you agree if the motion included that if you want to use porta potty, you have to talk to administration about the installation even for a special event, so at least the city was aware that it out there. Sure.
How much notice would I have to, just a phone
Probably
call?
probably weeks, no, about 3 to 4 days notice at least. Yes. Because you know when the special events are. It's not like you don't know.
Sure, I just didn't know if like this is kind of a monthly long process.
Sure. And then last thing I would ask you, Mr. Gunderson's list, I know that whole parking situation is screwed up, and I talked to Kevin a little bit about this, and I have over the years, because of when the post office has really not responded to their request to try to swap some stuff to get postal vehicles from behind his building and against theirs.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that.
That's nuts. I do ask you, though, to talk to Kevin this week, and I will reach out to Kevin to make sure you did. So I want to make sure there's an understanding between you and Mr. C's, because even when I was in there the other day, a guy parked ran into the post office. Another guy parked ran into your place. So it's like, okay, I got 2 cars now, right down close to where people are parking to get into his place, now going into 2 different businesses on the other side of him. I think at least you guys should talk about, if you want to use some spots, maybe designate some ones towards the end. If you put up a sign that says for Mr. C's or Irish Coffee, so at least people know that they have to go way down to the alley rather than parking by his front door. So at least I would talk to him about it this within the week to get some ideas on how you guys can do this without impacting his business.
Yes, between him and I, we've always kind of had a sharing parking situation.
Right.
Where his customers park in our lot, or we've always used the driveway, so that should be no problem maybe.
I'll check in with you. All right, that's all.
If I have one, in his email to us, number 6. Can you please address this allegation of an issue with your employees smoking marijuana? He's saying it's an issue. He brought it to our attention before.
I mean, it's not really something that I've known about. I've heard, I've asked them not to do it. I don't know if it's still going on.
Do security cameras out there?
Yeah. They don't reach the alley. They reach basically the edge of our property, so if they're walking down the alley, then
No one considered you that does that. A little 360 on the back there, 180 on the back of the building. Might not hurt if you guys are going on the other side of the building to smoke.
Right.
Or whatever.
I mean, I could also imagine there might be some neighborhood kids, there's a dumpster, you can hide a smell pretty well
Oh, yeah.
behind the dumpster. It could be employees, it could be anybody.
It could be anyone. I'm not,
Yeah.
it's a legal activity. I'm trying to. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I always appreciate the time when citizens take to write us emails on various issues and include facts in their perception. But I would urge residents as well, when they write to city council about what I consider to be a very good business. I've driven by there a lot. It's clean. The alleys are always extremely clean. They keep the premises clean. I don't believe that they have had numerous, often that the outside area has been used until, or even in some cases past 2 a.m. I think that's a gross exaggeration. I think it's a gross exaggeration with regard to the number of break-ins that have occurred, alleging criminal activity on that property on numerous occasions and the like. Simply not true. And I am in support of this. I appreciate your continued work. Keep it clean, keep us notified. Thank you very much.
thank you.
I just want to add, since last time Mr. Gunderson was here and spoke about the issue of the marijuana. I know a couple of our officers talked to Mr. Kennedy. We haven't received a single call about people smoking marijuana on the premises since Mr. Gunderson was here. So if it's happening, nobody's calling.
Great, thank you. All right, anybody else on council? All right, anybody in the public want to speak on this topic? Seeing no hands, public comment is closed. What is the pleasure of council? Mr. Wood?
I move that the city council approve the site plan submitted on August 24th, 2022 by Michael Kennedy on behalf of the Irish Coffee Bar and Grill located at 18666 Mac Avenue. Approval of the site plan will allow for the construction of a permanent outdoor dining pavilion at the rear of the building with decorative planters and railing that would replace the existing campus tent and temporary railing. Approval of the site plan is based upon the following. The proposed modification of the existing use will not represent a nuisance to the adjacent residential area and is consistent with the intent of the D1 zoning district. There are no letters of objection from the neighbors. There are no public safety concerns resulting from the new construction. The proposed addition does not expand the existing temporary structure and does not present any concerns with the dimensional requirements of the ordinance. Since the new permanent structure is located at the rear of the building, the proposed area will only marginally be visible from Mac Avenue. City Council hereby grants an exemption from the ordinance parking requirements since the applicant has shown that adequate parking is available both adjacent to and on site to support the new permanent structure. Approval of the site plan is subject to the following conditions. The applicant will provide the city staff with accurate information about proposed site lighting. The applicant will use LED lighting, not sodium lighting as detailed in the application, and will demonstrate to the city's satisfaction that the LED lights will be appropriately screened from public roads and from neighbors' homes. All building materials and building dimensions will comply with those shown in the plan submitted to the council by Mr. Kennedy in our October 2022 packet. No additional external building signage is allowed unless approved by city staff. Trash enclosures will be provided for cleanliness, as has been the practice in the past. Porta potty use will be cleared by city staff in the case of a special event, and music will be turned off at 11 o'clock. And Louis, I wasn't quite certain about that, particularly that you had mentioned music off at 11 o'clock during school hours. What was your?
No, so there's really two, just want the music off when the service stops during the summer, not continued for the driving. So as soon as they close at midnight, the music stops during the summer, and then during the school year, they close the whole thing during the school week at 11 o'clock.
All right, Derek, that would be an additional condition that I'd like to add on the motion. So that's my motion.
Good motion?
There was one misstatement, Lev. I think you referenced the October 2022 package, but
Yes.
it's still September.
Oh,
Do it in advances.
Yes.
sorry.
September 13th back.
September, where did I write that? Okay, yes, thank you very much. Okay, given that. Thank you. Yep.
Support, anybody?
Support.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, congratulations.
Thank
When you
you.
guys started?
Tomorrow.
All right.
Nice.
There you go.
Great credit.
Thank you.
See you next, Mike. All right, item number 6, presentation of the master plan community survey results by the city's planning consultant, Mr. Risa.
Paul comes to the podium, consultant from McKenna and our city planner. He's here tonight to provide an update on the master plan progress. That endeavor started earlier this spring. This summer, there was a public workshop held in June, and subsequent to that, there's survey work and opportunities for public feedback. And Paul will give us kind of an update on where we are with the master plan and results of the online engagement.
Thank you, Shane. So the master plan process is at sort of an inflection point. We spent the last several months doing technical analysis sort of at our desk, and the engagement that Shane mentioned. So 75 people attended the public open house in June. We received 225 comments from more than 1,000 visits on the online mapping activity and project website. And more than 360 people responded to a survey that we provided. So at this point in the process, we're taking all of the input and synthesizing them into recommendations, which the team will bring to you next month. We provided in your packets sort of a short-ish synthesis of both the technical analysis and the public input. I won't belabor that. I'm happy to answer questions about anything that's been provided. I think the thing to note is that through those multiple channels of engagement, certain themes and certain consensus have emerged, and that's a good thing because it sort of indicates that we are getting a true sentiment and not just something based on what a certain person that you talk to one day. We summarize those in the report. Basically, as you all know, residents seem to very much value living in this community. I think the neighborhood character is strong, and they would like any master plan or policy decisions to work to maintain that. There were some suggestions about parks and recreation, those opportunities are valued in the community. People were looking for perhaps more children's programming, and a couple of comments about walkability and pedestrian access. There were comments about the health of the hill and a general desire to promote a more local economy so people can shop and dine locally and enhance what's already there. And then a couple of just, the not completely positive comments were about traffic management. There's some specific intersections that were mentioned, that people recommended policy, and efforts be aimed at those. And then the theme of resilience in the face of changes in climate and just in general environmental problems that you and every other built out city in Southeast Michigan and many across the country are dealing with, as far as water management and just an increased focus on sustainability. There's a lot of comments about public infrastructure. As I said, we plan to come back, the team plans to come back in next month with recommendations and sort of what the so what of everything I just said. But with that, I'm happy to answer any questions about what we provided to you or processing.
Sure. I think that the written report and reports also that, I looked online, raise a number of different questions and some really good ideas, which I didn't find in your summary just now, and maybe that's just the time. But I do think that the written report was very thorough, and I think that it does tell us that we have an engaged community as far as what they are talking about. As I look at some of the different things, one of the things that I don't think we should mention at all was housing. And that's a major issue right now. So I think that that's just something for people who have not read the report or have not seen it online, they really need to take a look at this, because with all due respect, your summary does not do justice to what your work is. So I think that we've got a lot of wonderful issues here that we're going to have to grapple with. I think that one of the issues too is that why isn't our major house at our Pier Park open on the weekends in peak season when other parks are? That's a huge issue, I think, that I'm always hearing back from. So it's, I don't think that that's the most pressing issue. I think the housing issue, though, is something that's of huge importance. But thank you for your report. I mean, the report is excellent. I just hope that people understand that this is just a brief summary of what you just presented, and that the report really has a lot more to it. Thank you.
And I urge people to go on the website, to take time to read the report thoroughly, because we could spend hours digesting some of these numbers. But it's available for the public, and feel free to comment on it after you read it. So any other questions from council? Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I could just make some statements.
Sure.
First of all, Paul, you said 1,000 people made comments, both in the public meeting at the building in Pier Park and also online. Is that what it was?
1,000 people visited the website, left 200 and something comments.
200 and something. So I think that's terrific in itself, that people in our community felt it important enough to go out of their way to make comments about our future, the future of our city, this built out community where we can do things marginally. I think one thing that we may be able to do, and I think I picked up on your report, was changing zoning opportunities. There's opportunities for changing zoning, in particular in areas where we've had quite a few requests for variances on side yard setbacks and others right along the same road. Like it seems to me, like on Mirror and on those roads where there's some smaller homes, smaller setbacks and that kind of thing. Maybe we can just kind of look at our zoning ordinance and try to make changes so that those people don't have to come to us, and do that. Second thing I found really interesting was the desire for a bike and pedestrian pathway along the seawall. And I don't get that for myself. I mean, there's already on the other side of the street, there's already a sidewalk. So I'm not sure how we're going to do that. Plus, where would you put the parking? People who are going to, get out of their car and get their bikes off the car and then drive up and down this supposedly new, roadway here. So I don't get that. Last thing I'd make a comment is like Beth had been talking about, maybe a little bit more than that, is kind of parks and the desire for parks and open spaces. And that brings me back to Mac and Ross. And I'm one who really likes the open space at Mac and Ross. I'm not I'm not the one who's really 100% against any development there, but I think the people really value that location. And to me, the more open space we have, seeing the kids running around, playing soccer, and we have the dog park kind of tangential to that. I think we really want to make sure that we kind of keep that as open as we can. So those are my comments.
As I said earlier, it's always good to hear from our residents. We had a great turnout at the workshop. Thank you to you and your team. And we've been hearing from the residents with regard to the need for increased traffic patrols for speeders, things of that nature. I think things are happening. With regard to the seawall, things are happening. We heard several years ago about the need for infrastructure improvements. We're about to roll out a plan in excess of $20 million to improve that. Our parks are undergoing expansion, a big event next week sponsored by the Farms Foundation to improve the playscape. More on the way. We hear you. You've got a lot in the works for such a great small community, and it can only get better. So thank you very much.
Any comments from the public? All right, thank you very much. Work continues. To be continued, I should say. Yes. Thank you. And number 7, consideration of a request to approve the POAM collective bargaining agreement.
Okay, this is, thank you, I will respond. This is our biggest union, Police Officers Association of Michigan, that we negotiated with. As you recall, a couple of months ago, we did settle our contract with the Public Works employees, and pleased that we've now settled with Police Officers Association of Michigan that represents our patrol officers, our dispatchers, our parking enforcement specialists, and fire specialists. And really, the terms of the agreement, which are outlined in our memorandum, are very similar to what was approved for our public safety group, our public works group. We're looking at a 3-year contract that would go into effect retroactively July 1st of this year through June of 2025. And with proposed wage increases of 3% the first year with the signing bonus, 3.5% the second year, and 3.5% the third year. It really is pretty much the meat. There's other items that were included, some minor tweaking of some of the other forms of compensation, including longevity, food allowance for the 4 fire specialists, and our contributions to our retiree health savings accounts for those employees that won't be covered by city provided health insurance. So with that, it's our recommendation that City Council would approve the tentative agreement with employees represented by the Police Officers Association of Michigan, and it's put forward tonight.
Any questions from council? Do I have a motion?
I move to approve the tentative agreement.
Any comments from the public? All right, public comment is closed. Go ahead, John.
I move to approve the tentative agreement with the Police Officers Association of Michigan as presented in the memorandum of City Manager Reeside, September 6, 2022.
Support. All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Congratulations, guys. I think it's a great job, and our PSOs are well deserving. Thank you all. Number 8, consideration of request to award a contract for the landscaping of the Deer Park Playscape to be installed this fall. Mr. Reeside.
Earlier this year, City Council did approve the purchase of a new play structure at Pier Park that's being made possible through generous support from the Rose Point Farms Foundation. When we came to council several months ago, we also discussed a desire to do some really cleanup and improvements to the areas surrounding the playscape. Primarily the landscaping surrounding the playscape that in some cases, it's lived its life. It's somewhat overgrown. We've got trees that have overshaded the play structure where we see moss build up and lack of light. And so we've asked Grissom Betts, our landscape architect, to look at the area surrounding the playscape, make recommendations and cost out landscape improvements. With that, we are recommending that a contract be awarded the low bid from Stuart Levy Incorporated for landscape improvements at a total amount of $29,417.
Not that I'm a shade specialist. Those playscapes get really hot when there's beating sunlight. So some of those trees that provide a canopy to actually prevent some of the rails and plastics and everything that really want. So I think right now they may be a bit overgrown. So are they planning to save some of the shade trees?
They are, yes. No, actually, most of those trees will remain in place. There's actually, there's some pines that will be removed. The larger deciduous trees will remain in place. It's primarily the area as you enter the Pier Park around that seating area. I don't know if you have that.
Yes, all the
Right, where the pine needles are kind of falling, so that area, and then there's the three evergreens that are closest to the snack shop, which again are spilling over to the sidewalk area and creating some of the moss issues on the roof and so forth. So, but other trees will remain in place. The other big improvement will be removing those hues that are surrounding the playscape, again overgrown, and replacing those primarily with hydrangea and rhododendron in that area.
Again, if you have the argument saying that's what we need, but frankly, I'm there almost 3 times a week. And I haven't noticed that this is, a major issue worth almost $30,000, correct? I'm reluctant to approve this only because I don't see it worth $30,000. I really don't. I can understand maybe doing some pruning and doing some other different things, but does it cost $29,417 to do that?
Well, again, it's not only replacing of some of the trees, it's the landscaping. A lot of that area, there's really nothing that's growing there because it's pretty much root bound. So part of it will be removing, some of the roots that have grown into those beds that are no longer sustain. We're also, adding some additional grass area where the grass hasn't survived, but really to freshen it up. Well, by doing this, it's going to add light, make it much brighter. It's also going to add color. Right now, it's a very, just green and this, by introducing some of the flowering plants, and it's going to, I think, really create a whole different feel for that area and open it up and introduce color.
I guess what I'm saying, Shane, is that, the people I talk down at the park, they'd rather see $29,417 spent on maybe a staffing, which could open up the inside the park so people can play the games inside or have usage of that clubhouse. Or maybe they want to see the $29,417 used in some other different ways as far as to take a look at, maybe just putting in one additional pickleball court. So it's.
I don't think they're mutually exclusive on that. I think we can do those things.
Okay,
We have the money.
I'm not understanding that. To me, I'll take your word for it, Shane, and I'll vote for this, but I do have some real questions. For almost $30,000 for something I go by at least twice a week, and I can see where it needs to have some correction and some refurbishing and some trimming, maybe some replacement. But people say, well, all right, so you're going to do a new playscape. I said, well, that's the foundation. Well, that's great. But now we're going to be spending $29,000, $400 for, just landscaping. maybe get a picture would help, support, to convince me or to help me.
Yeah, I think I could show, demonstrate
Before
where
and after,
it would be
yeah.
a significant improvement. And, with that, I could, revise my request to a cost not to exceed the 29,417, and then go back to a landscape architect and look at areas where we potentially could save. There might be a few things we can do, but
Replace this time. Okay, so finish.
All right, okay. But you heard my list.
Well, Louis, or Shane, I'm in Beth's camp here. So for the 12 years I've been doing this and longer I've been going to the park and all, and I have noticed how expert our park people and our DPW folks are for landscape. I mean, they are really, really sharp people. You don't have to look any further than the rain garden that they did for me, years ago. It's excellent. And I'm just wondering, Shane, isn't it possible that we could do this work in-house? I understand that this is purchasing some of the raw materials too, right?
Yeah.
This is purchasing the raw materials, construction, and removal, landscaping, and construction altogether. So could we, can't we do something more than just the irrigation system in-house? To save money, can't we do a lot of this in-house?
I want to tell something that I can speak for Shane, I'll speak for myself. I walk by there every time, and to me, it seems exhausted, not just tired, exhausted. That area with all the views that are old, they've been up there for as long as the playscapes were up there, etc. I think Shane has done a good job in the administration. It says we can do the irrigation, because we got some irrigation bids that were, 5 digits, right, to fix and improve the irrigation. To me, that's the first thing you see when you walk into the park. And the foundation has done a fantastic job raising the money to pay for a playscape. So for us to spend $30,000 in our community, we can come up with $30,000 to address your issue that's in there. Thankfully, through 20-some years of good stewardship of our finances, we'll be able to find some money to do whatever, best thing, can we do this or whatever. I think let's do it right. Let's get somebody come in and cut those trees down, de-root them. I mean, that's going to be significant work. And if I recall last year or the summer before, we were all talking about some of the flower beds were not that well maintained. We had to bring in a contractor to weed them, take care of them, etc. Because we had lost some of our part-time employees. We had lost some of the volunteers that had done that. And so we had to bring in a third party to even take care of the beds. So yes, we in the past have done an amazing job, and our team does an amazing job. Last weekend, for the fireworks and everything that happened that weekend, exhibit A of exactly how super our staff is. But $30,000, I know what I just paid for my landscaping, and that's a deal. $30,000, and find me that guy and bring him to my house.
Right. And to that, Mr. Mayor, that was actually one of my questions, was looking at these bids. I had not heard of a Stuart Levy before. I guess they're based out in Milford. So I just want to I had a question of do we have are there local communities that have used Stuart Levy before? Because I want to make sure they can deliver quality on the bid, because it's 30% less than the other bids we were getting. And so I have that question, but can you answer that, and then I'll follow up with that?
Yeah. Actually, they have done municipal work and have worked directly with Bristol Benz in the past. So that was actually one of the contractors that they recommended that we made sure received a bid packet. So.
Okay. And Beth is a woman after my own heart with as a frugal, my wife will tell you, I get 3 bids on everything, no matter what. And when just a couple of years ago, we had to take down a couple of trees, and just to get the trees taken down, it was like $7 grand. And that was the lowest bid I could get from somebody. These were big guys. These were big guys.
No, I got a guy.
You always got a guy. He's always got a guy. But the point is that this stuff is always way more expensive than you expect them being, and then when you add the tree prices on top of it, I agree. That front area, especially where that seating is, it's just, I think people don't really use that seating because it's so dark and crowded, and I think we'll get some more use out of it.
And as Councilman Ricci has shown in the past, you got that problem with the moss on the side of the snack shack, and I think getting those trees down over there will help. I think in the long term, save some money on roofing perhaps of that building. So I think this is kind of a case where you run the risk of being penny wise and pound foolish. And to that end, what I would also say is I really do trust the staff there. I think that if the staff kind of maintaining our grounds thought that they could do what we needed, they would have been in there already doing it. But I think in the end, they kind of know the life cycle of the tree is this, those trees have got to go. And since the changes, it just has to be freshened up. So I'm in support of this, but I very much appreciate some of the thought, the perspective from Lev and Ben on this. I think that's, you got to ask those questions.
Joe? I'd just like to make one comment that I'm the council representative on the foundation. I've been working with them, what, 8 years now. The budget used to be $50,000, maybe $60,000. We raised, all of us chipped into over $300,000 this year to fund the playscape. And the whole movement and leadership of the foundation is to have this type of fundraising every year. And the park is the focus point. We have a 10-year program. We're in year three of the program. So we know a lot of stuff that has to be done to bring the place up. When the realtors come in with their potential customers, residents, where they go? To the park. The park is the first stop. So, yeah, I think it needs to really be the show place. And, you know, we're just gonna raise more money and more money. And we're gonna do just like the park, West Point Park, their budget's $300,000 or $400,000 a year for their foundation. So we've got a ways to go, but you know, everybody behind in the foundation, as Shane can attest to, is behind us 100%, don't you think, Shane?
Their support.
I'm sorry, I probably cut you off about my rant, so if you have anything else to add, I apologize.
I think everybody gets the picture. I'm concerned. I just think that we can do the business in-house. I appreciate what Neil said and what you've said, Louis. So, I'll vote for this with reservations.
Sure, John?
Yes, because I love reports. And in the public feedback, online engagement, in the second page, I'll just read this one line. Parks and Recreation. It is clear that the parks and recreation opportunities offered by the city are prized by the community. Along with minor improvements, the city, our residents would like to see along with minor improvements to outdoor areas to provide more shade in the warmer months. So today I had a conversation with Carol Ferber, one of our newer members of the Beautification Advisory Commission. And we talked at length about the park, and her comments were what's going on with maintenance of the park, and that particular area seemed to be pretty drab. So in my opinion, 30,000, because I know what landscaping costs and installing. One of my concerns is that the job not being done properly, because when the rain garden was maintained or updated, just cleaning it up, valuable plants were pulled out because the park staff didn't know what was there. And so I am concerned about the quality of the work being done. We do want it done correctly so that we don't have to go back and try to, make amends and then spend more money. So I'm definitely in support of
hearing my fellow council people with some of the different discussions with it, I'm with Love, with reservations, I will approve it. I will say, one of the things that get people really upset in our park is when we remove trees unnecessarily. So I hope that there's truly some due diligence with that on what trees are in.
There will be, and another thing that we did do over this past winter, I don't know if people have noticed, but we did raise the canopy, for instance, of the whole picnic area, and so you really, I think it's opened it up to air. We've got better grass growth, and really the views of the lake have really improved, and so That was something former Councilmember Mayor Farquhar, as a private consultant, unpaid, helped facilitate that project. So a good turnout.
It's noticeable. John,
Very noticeable.
anything? No, thank you. Okay. Anybody, we done on council? All right, anybody in the public? Come on up and give us your name and address. We gotta go up here to the podium, man. We gotta come on. Name and address, please.
My name is Amanda Donrich, and my address is 313 Ross Road. My family and I are new to the point, brand new, we're from Dearborn. And one of the reasons why we moved out here is because of the architecture of the area, the safety, and as well as the park. Where we lived in Dearborn was filled with a lot of parks, we lived on the golf course. And we spoke a little bit about the landscaping, and I have small kids that use the playscape every time we're at the park, many times a week now. And you brought up about the landscaping as far as, color, bringing in, some beautiful plants. The only thing I would just ask, keep in mind, is that when we bring in color, I believe we're bringing in things for like wasps and other bees, and I already learned really quickly to dodge the red-winged blackbirds in the park. I don't want my kids to have to dodge like plants where there's, especially when they're trying to play and there's just bees everywhere. So it's just something I think to keep in mind when we're putting in plants next to where kids are going to play. That what kind of plants are they, especially those picnic, I know exactly what you're talking about, the picnic table area. Maybe if it's, if it's color, maybe what can we do so it's not so wasp or hornet loving, because that can become a problem. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Dr. Boris? Name and address, please.
My name is Dr. County Morris, and I represent the Wayne County Conservation District, whose mission is to protect natural resources and environmental quality. I am also a neighbor of the Grosse Point War Memorial. I live at 28 McKinley Place. I'm speaking on my behalf as well as the neighbors who fought so very hard and tirelessly to make sure that the War Memorial would install bird collision deterrent
Dr. Boris,
glass.
Dr. Boris, we're not there yet. This issue is, we're voting on expending money to put in plants at the park.
Oh.
We're not on public comment. No problem. It's okay. It's okay. We got time for you when we're done with this.
I'll wait.
Okay. Any other public comment on this issue? Seeing none, public comment is closed. What is the pleasure of council?
I'm going to approve the low bid of Stewart Levy Incorporated by way of the August 15, 2022 correspondence received with Bristol.
Second.
But no irrigation. No irrigation.
For price not to exceed 29,500.
Yes, please.
And second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Item 9, the consent agenda. Would anybody like anything removed from the consent agenda?
Item D, Louis.
Okay. Anything else? All right, do I have a motion to approve items A, B, C, E of the consent agenda? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 9B, consideration of a request regarding Public Act 51, annual certification of employee-related conditions. Mr. Wood, you have some questions?
Yeah, and for Tim, this would be for Tim, right? So maybe you could explain this just a little bit better. I'm a little confused by why this is associated with Act 51, which in my mind is typically associated with financing of roadway projects.
Yeah, so the state tied this to road funding to give the act some teeth. So if you weren't in compliance, they could take something away from you, which they decided was the road funding. So they tied it to the road funding.
Okay. And we have, is the idea here that we want to continue this benefit, but that we have run up against this, as you call it, this hard cap limit? Is this the idea?
Correct, yes.
So that if we did not approve this tonight, then the benefit would go away.
If we did not approve opting out, we would have to negotiate with the unions to do some sort of concession on healthcare.
And I'm certainly in favor of maintaining that benefit, so, okay, that adequately explains it, thank you very much. Yeah.
I'll just add too, this is something I think, we probably have talked about, maybe, should, look at doing it prior. We are self-insured, for most of our healthcare, for our city employees. And, and because of that, we see a fluctuation. So we will actually see quarters where our spending goes up higher, and under those trends, it would, theoretically could go above the hard cap, and we also had quarters where we were significantly below those caps. So theoretically, we just don't always know where we're gonna end up at the end of the year, and this kind of gives us, again, some ability to kind of watch it, to trend it, as we know the trends change. We do have within our contracts the ability to go back and renegotiate based upon exceeding the hard cap. So we do have that available as if it became a significant issue.
Any other questions from council? Any questions from the public? All right, what's the pleasure of council?
Since I brought it up, how about if I make a motion? I guess that I will say that my motion is that the city of Grosse Pointe Farms exempt itself from the publicly funded Insurance Contribution Act 2011 PA 152 as described in the memo dated September 13th from Tim Rowland, Finance Director.
Do I have support?
Support.
All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Reports, item 10, you have the home safety report in front of you. Other business, Julie side.
I think it was mentioned before, just want to again thank Parks and Rec and all the departments, public safety, city council support for our summer bash this past month. It really was a great event, great success. We had over 2,500 guests to the park that Saturday for fireworks and activities, and fortunately the weather cooperated and made it a really special day and event. For your calendars, things to put in your calendar. Thursday, the Daughters of American Revolution will be celebrating Constitution Day at Joy Bells Park, and there'll be the ringing of the bells at 4 p.m. So if anyone wants to celebrate Constitution Day, that's at 4 o'clock at Joy Bells on Thursday. On Thursday, September 22nd, as Mayor Willie had mentioned, the Farms Foundation is having its first, we hope to be annual fundraiser with proceeds that will be going towards the playscape, and that will be held also at the Pier Park. And then on Sunday, September 25th, the foundation will be hosting the annual Time Force Car Show at Pier Park. And I think Derek had mentioned that I think we have already over 80 cars registered for that event. So weather cooperates, should be another successful Time Force. That's all I have.
Great weekend. The fireworks were absolutely spectacular. I can't, all of us have probably gotten comments from our residents that was like one of the best shows they've ever seen, flat out. So, and our team just walking around the beer tent, the food trucks, the grill, everything was just, everybody was happy, and it was just, that's what summer's about in Grosse Pointe Farms. It was just community, people on the boats. It was just fantastic. So kudos, to the whole administration, particularly the park staff, for just really knocking it out of the park. I will be out of town for all of these events, leaving the city in the capable hands of Shane Reeside and Mayor Pro Tem Lilly, so I'll be gone for the next 10 days. So, don't pull any Alexander Hagan. Shane will be able to find me.
Emergency meeting.
Anybody else have any other business?
Yeah, I just wanted to also personally thank everyone who's involved. This especially the boat club. We did a lot both for this event and the one that happened in July 4th. And I also want to say, I really hope we continue to do this end of summer thing. I know it seems like each year we've done this, there's some consternation about it, believing there's a conspiracy to avoid us celebrating the 4th of July. But the fact of the matter is, it's a great chance to have, it's a 2-for-1. We got a great event on the 4th of July that the boat club led. They continue to be very active participants in the end of summer bash. So obviously our public works team, our public safety department did a great job. But I also want to thank some of the volunteers that made that event possible as well.
Anybody else? All right, go ahead. Oh, I'm gonna, wait, you wanna go? I'm gonna have Dr. Boris go first.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
No, he can go first. No,
I've been hours. No. Everybody's thanking everybody, but I think one guy's being missing. Great summer and parties there, because when we started back in September, October of last year, going through the numbers, Derek said we need the costs are, we're going to cut down the shells. Remember, we had 10, 12-inch shells. And Derek said, well, we're going to put 8-inch shells with it. And I'm thinking we're going from M80s to sparklers. And, you know, it's going to be anticlimactic. I don't understand. I mean, it's going to be interesting. And I do have to agree here. That was a great call, because it was, I would never have noticed the difference in the shell circumference or capacity had it not been brought up by our previous meetings when I was here. So that was an outstanding job. I got lots of calls on it. I'm personally watching from residents on Lakeshore, and it was outstanding. One of the best shows I've ever seen in St. Luke. They were smaller shells, which obviously cost a little less money, so we say put the money in a better show. So kudos to you there.
Here. Fully. Yeah, no, stop. Dr. Boris.
Yeah, one question. When are you gonna run for Wayne County Sheriff?
Did you write me in where you were?
So, Dr. Boris, I will say this, we have all read your submission that you sent this afternoon. We have, so you don't have to reread it to us, because we have
I'm
read it.
not reading
Okay,
it.
good, I just want, don't,
I'm not a reader type.
okay, great, we did read it, so. We
Okay.
heard about the
But you
film.
read it though, let me ask
I
you.
got burned with the film, with the birds chipping at the film, somehow I got it, so.
Okay, how many birds die a year? Migratory birds die a year?
Cats eat 1 to 4 billion birds. Cats eat 1 to 4 billion birds a year. Cell towers kill about 4 million birds a year. Transmission towers kill about 6.5 million birds a year. And glass kills about 1 billion birds a year.
1 billion.
Well, I don't want to ban cats either, because cats kill 1 to 4 billion. So cats might be next. So I just want to be careful.
Okay, well, we can try to prevent that kind of mortality in birds. We need to, because they're gonna go extinct, and as you know, some of them have already. Also, what is Lake St. Clair called?
Migratory pathway.
An international migratory bird pathway. So this location, about being right there on it, we've got to protect the birds. And you all did a wonderful, really wonderful job when you passed the motion on August 10th of 2020, saying that the War Memorial will need to install, as a condition of approval of the building addition, that they install bird collision deterrent glass. I emphasize that, not film. And what they're proposing to do is do film. For one thing, the spacing is all screwed up. You don't use a 3-inch by 3-inch, because you will kill all the hummingbirds and all the warblers that migrate at night. So you don't want a 3-inch by 3-inch spacing. The other thing about it is it doesn't last long. You know, it's only about at most 10 years. So what's going to happen is they're going to have to redo it. Why do that? For 5% more of what you paid for that glass, War Memorial, you could have bird collision deterrent glass. 5% only. That's all you had to pay to get that filament inside of the glass layers. So let me say one other thing. The Conservation District, I've been trying to get this resolved since May of 2022. And look where we are right now, we're in September. We asked for proof that the War Memorial provide proof that they installed bird deterrent glass, so that for the collision. We never got it. We asked for the city manager, not the city manager, the city engineer. We did it 3 times in June. We did it in July. We got nothing. You know who finally answered the question? Thank God for Glenn Wood. He was the one who answered the question. And the situation is this. Shane Reside had spoken with Charles Burke, and they're going to add the clear Collin escape tape with a 3-inch by 3-inch pattern. You can't just, who gave permission to the city manager to void what the city council approved in August of 2020? Who gave Shane that responsibility, that authority? And then another question becomes, did the city at all, whether it's the engineer or is it the manager, go to see the city attorney and ask, is this the right thing for me to be doing? So I'm just asking for one thing. There's a lot of questions here. We don't have the answer. I don't have it. But at least I got the answer that they're not putting in the bird collision deterrent glass. That's a violation of what you had told them to do on August 10th, 2020. I ask you on behalf of all of us neighbors that live here, please stay true to what you have done. Don't make an exception just because it's the War Memorial. Do what's right for the neighbors. Do what's right for the residents. Do what's right for the migratory birds. Please. You know, I beg of you to do that.
Did your, I can't remember, did your letter address the other?
You have to
items in
speak
the other-
up.
I'm sorry, did your letter address the other items you're putting to prevent the bird collision? Aren't they putting a bird avoidance system as well?
Oh,
in
let's
addition
talk
to
about that. Let's talk about that, okay? That's a torture device for birds. You know what it does? The pressure waves cause them to lose their ability to focus on the Earth's magnetic pole that they have in the ground by which they migrate. When they put that thing in there, the birds are going to get so screwed up as to which way they're going, they'll probably end up in the fall going north. That is a torture device. And I think the reason they're doing it, because birds at times will chip at this particular film. And so to keep them from doing that, they're putting up this sound ultrasound, which is, as I said, a torture device. The other thing that you all are not realizing, because nobody's really researched, I did some research on this since I found out what they were planning to substitute, which you shouldn't be doing because you're violating what the council has said. It contains, it's polyethylene. That's a PFAS contaminant. It is the most serious, most persistent, most body accumulating contaminant. Each one of you has PFAS in your blood right now because it's been pervasive. That product is PFAS. It's PFAS compounds. What's going to happen to that? The dust will take some of that PFAS. When the wind blows, us neighbors will be breathing that in. We will be bioaccumulating more PFAS than we already have. What else happens? When the dust comes, when the particles go down, and you would know this, goes into the soil, PFAS moves very fast. It migrates very fast. It'll go right down to the groundwater, right into Lake St. Clair, and guess where it bioaccumulates? In the very fish that you catch to eat. So we've got a major problem. You are not only killing birds, you're going to mess up the PFAS of all the people. You're going to mess up the people's health who are downriver, who this will eventually migrate downriver, and they're going to be eating the fish heavily contaminated with PFAS. So you've got a lot of issues here. And just to say, okay, go ahead and do it, that's wrong. And everything I'm stating here is factual. I really stress facts because that's truth, and I'm for truth. So, bottom line, please, stay true to what you passed on August 10th, 2020. What I say needs to be done, and what the neighbors feel has to be done. Remove that glass, and you put in for 5% more the glass you were supposed to buy, the one with the filament inside the layers. Don't back down, because you're putting our health at risk. You're putting Lake St. Clair at risk, and the fish, and the people that eat fish. And that's not right. So, I beg. Thank you.
Anybody else in the public? Okay, we will be adjourning to a.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor, just to respond, just to refresh our memory, Shane. Did we as a council, because we did vote on this, and I just want to make sure that I've got the best recollection of everything. And maybe you can educate us, Shane, on what that recollection ought to be. I do not remember getting, this could be my fault, but I do not remember getting the information from the War Memorial as far as what's going to be done with their windows, where we had to say, okay, or whether it needed council approval, or if there was an amendment that we needed to make. I do not recall getting that information. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, I think my recollection is that council did, I think the motion that Dr. Boris has stated is correct. So it's a definition of bird protected glass. Is it embedded in the glass? Is it on the surface of the glass? The product that the War Memorial, my recollection, they brought to city council at the August meeting was the actual product which they intend to install, which was an aftermarket product that goes over the glass.
That is not correct.
But that's what
We're all based on recollection. We can go back and read the minutes and look at and see what it was. To make sure, because I don't want to base it on recollection. So we
Right,
can go back and look.
yeah, just if we can get some record, anything to do with the zonar thing, yeah.
We can do some research on it ourselves.
Okay, very good, thank you.
All right, with that, we are going to adjourn to a closed session to discuss some real estate matters. We will be coming back after that closed session and continue potentially take up that issue in open session. We need a motion. I need a motion. Two-thirds majority rule. Yes. So I need a motion to adjourn into a closed session. Support? Okay, roll call.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye. Aye. Oh, yeah, you can go, I'm sorry, Derek's right. We gotta call our names.
I'm sorry. Councilmember Wood. Yes. Councilmember Conrad Bolger.
Yes.
Councilmember Ritchie.
Yes.
Mayor Darrow.
Yes.
Councilmember Donovan.
Yes.
Councilmember Zerota.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Bluey.
Yes. All right, we'll adjourn to a closed session. We don't know how long, but we'll come back and reconvene in open session. Yeah, then you can come back. You don't have to. You want to? Tim,